By every official measure, the American economy appears healthy. Gross domestic product is growing, job growth looks strong on the surface, and the unemployment rate is sitting at a steady 4.4%. But if the math is so sound, the lived experience of the public suggests a much more fragile reality. Beneath the surface of these optimistic reports, the structural integrity of the average household is showing signs of a slow-motion collapse. This disconnect is built into how we define a recession. The National Bureau of Economic Research, or NBER, doesn't announce a downturn while it's happening. They wait 6 to 18 months to gather comprehensive data, often informing you about a crisis only after you have already lived through it. This delay is a historical constant. The 2008 financial crisis actually began in December 2007, yet the official declaration didn't arrive until December 2008, well after the collapse of Lehman Brothers. The 2001 dot-com bust followed the same script, starting in March but remaining unofficial for 8 months. Relying on headline metrics to prepare for a recession is a tactical error. The system is structurally designed to provide confirmation of the past, not a warning of the present. To understand how the data hides the truth, we have to look at Goodhart's law. It's the principle that the moment a metric becomes a target for policymakers, it ceases to be a reliable measure of reality. Consider Marcus. He represents a growing segment of the workforce that lost a stable career and now juggles multiple part-time gigs to stay afloat. Under current reporting, Marcus's struggle is masked. Replacing one full-time job with 2 part-time gigs is recorded as 2 jobs added. This explains how the government cheers 181,000 new jobs, while 4.4 million Americans remain trapped in part-time work. The definition of employed is incredibly thin. Driving for a delivery app for a single hour a week puts a worker in the exact same statistical bucket as a salaried software engineer. At the same time, the labor force is shrinking. Since the pandemic, 1.6 million people have stopped looking for work entirely. Because they haven't applied for a job in the last month, they disappear from the unemployment statistics, artificially lowering the headline number. By optimizing for a low unemployment percentage, the system has successfully hidden the systemic decline in job quality and security. If the job market is hollowing out, why does consumer spending still appear robust in the monthly reports? Families like the Millers are not funding their lifestyles with rising wages. They are borrowing to survive a 25% cumulative spike in inflation since 2020. National credit card debt hit a record $1.28 trillion, carrying an average 22% interest rate. While debt spikes, the safety net is vanishing. The personal savings rate, historically around 8%, has dropped to just 4.5%. GDP measurements have a massive blind spot here. They count credit-driven spending exactly the same as income-driven spending, treating debt-fueled survival as a sign of economic health. What is being reported as strong consumer spending is actually a textbook pre-recession indicator, households stretching themselves to the breaking point just to maintain their standard of living. These financial pressures are now escalating into the corporate world as the era of cheap pandemic-era financing comes to an end. Commercial bankruptcies have risen over 7%, resulting in more than 24,000 filings. This is the highest level of corporate failure in over a decade. At the same time, the leading economic index, which is designed specifically to forecast downturns, has now declined for 6 consecutive months. We are seeing a simultaneous deterioration in labor quality, in credit health, and corporate stability. This is the same constellation of warning signs that preceded the recessions of 2001 and 2008. When every underlying indicator shifts downward at once, the breakdown is no longer a possibility, it becomes a mathematical certainty. The gap between official data and your reality exists because the system stopped measuring the economy and started managing the metrics. This is the inevitable result of Goodhart's law in action. When the NBER eventually declares this recession official, the announcement will serve as delayed validation of the financial pain people have carried for months. Moving forward, you have to look past the top-line numbers. When the media highlights job growth, check the quality of those roles. When they celebrate high spending, look at the credit data. If you are seeing these shifts in your own community, Share your experience in the comments. The most accurate data often comes from those living in the economy, not those managing reports. A clear divergence has formed between official reporting and the actual health of the American household. Paying attention to shifts in labor, debt, and corporate filings is the only way to ensure you aren't blindsided when statistics finally align with reality.